controversial topic, folks, especially since marijuana became legal in Colorado. Now, Canada is interested in buying the herb from Jamaica, and member of the Cannabis Global Initiative. Really has nothing to do with Canada here. Wanda James is here to explain this potential. Good morning. Welcome to Smile Jamaica.
Good morning.
Should I say welcome to Jamaica?
Welcome to Jamaica.
Is it the first time?
No. I've been coming to Jamaica for 20 years with my husband, who's been coming for well over 30 years.
Okay. All right. Great to have you with us this morning.
Thank you.
I know the word is decriminalization, and there's legalizing marijuana.
Exactly.
How many states in the United States would have legalized it?
Okay. We've done tremendous things in the U.S. So Colorado and Washington during the 2012 elections, or 2013 elections, or 2012 decided to legalize cannabis. So anybody over the age of 21 can go to one of the dispensaries and purchase cannabis.
The dispensaries would have to be licensed, I suspect?
The dispensaries are licensed.
So you could really just light a spliff on the road and nobody wouldn't do anything to you?
You cannot light a spliff on the road. I mean, you can't drink wine on the road, you can't drink beer on the road. So the same rules that apply to alcohol essentially apply to cannabis.
And you could buy any amount you want?
Well, you're limited to 1 ounce is what you're legally allowed to have on you.
Legally?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's talk a bit about the journey that got Colorado and Washington to the point of legalization. What is it that what went into the whole process of getting to this point where you are now?
You know what, it's been a tremendous journey, and what's been fantastic about being here in Jamaica is watching this process begin for your people as well. So in 2009, well actually in 2000 we legalized, or we allowed people to have medicinal marijuana. But in 2009, when the Obama administration came in, there was a memo from our Justice Department that said as long as you are within clear and ambiguous rules of your state, that they would not interfere with anybody that was engaging in medicinal cannabis. That caused an onslaught of different businesses to open up in Colorado. You may have heard that we've had more dispensaries, medicinal marijuana dispensaries in Denver than we have Starbucks. So there was quite the explosion of people doing that. Over the last 5 years, we've had over 241,000 patients on our registry. So you go to your doctor, you get a recommendation from your doctor to have cannabis. You send that recommendation into the state, and then the state of Colorado sends you back a form that allows you to go into a dispensary and purchase cannabis for medicinal reasons. From 2009 until January 1st, we've had over, like I said, 240,000 patients on our registry. Last year, under medicinal marijuana, we sold over $328 million worth of product, resulting in $9 million worth of revenue to the state of Colorado. On January 1st, when we legalized this year, people waited in line for 7 hours to get into dispensaries. And in 1 day in Colorado, we sold over $1 million of legal product in 1 day. In 5 days of sales in Colorado, we sold $5 million worth of product on the legal market to anybody over the age of 21.
So what you're saying is, you're here in Jamaica to have talks to 1, legalize, 2, decriminalize, but also 3, look at the potential export market for Jamaica to the United States?
No, right now, well, yes, and not quite yet. We are here, I'm with the Cannabis Global Initiative, and so we are here talking to your ministers. We've worked with the Ganja Law Reform Coalition and Delano Seavright, Paul Burke, to be able to have the discussions that is going to, as Jamaica moves forward, it's going to be a matter of bringing all parties together so that all the stakeholders and all the people of Jamaica will be able to benefit from this, and especially your government. So in moving forward with this process right now, we are seeing that the world is on fire, no pun intended, but things are changing. Uruguay has now legalized cannabis. We're seeing here in the Caribbean, we have received phone calls. I do this all over the United States and in different places in the world. We have received numerous phone calls from Aruba, Bermuda, Puerto Rico. We're seeing that this region is more than interested in the legalization process, 1, to help drive tourism, 2, to help drive revenues, and 3, most importantly, is to bring medicinal benefits to the island. You just had a section on about people talking about prostate cancer. We've seen people in Colorado use cannabis to help with pain, prostate cancer, breast cancer. We have children now that are being treated with cannabis oil for epilepsy. Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN did a whole special
That's right.
on a number of children who are moving to Colorado for the help that we're seeing that has been done with seizures.
Question, because when the discussion started, it was about medical marijuana.
Exactly.
If you legalize it, all and sundry will just start smoking weed. You have a problem with people just smoking weed to get high? They don't need it because they're ill or anything? Do you have a problem with that?
I have no problem with that whatsoever, absolutely no problem. We've got to start to change how we feel about cannabis. You know, tobacco and alcohol have been legal for many years, and there has never been one death related to the use of cannabis. In the 5,000 years that we have been using cannabis on this planet, we have never seen anybody overdose or die from the use of cannabis.
The other concern is, it seems like in Jamaica you could go where someone could tell you where to get the best weed. If it is legalized, I could start selling weed. Wouldn't the quality of the product fall, you think?
Well, no and no to both of those. There's two processes. It's not a matter that anybody can just start to sell weed. You must go through a process of being a business and learning to be involved in the system of regulation, so that we can bring regulation to the island so people can be licensed, just as you would with a liquor store or any other products that you sell. You can't just open a grocery store and start selling food to the consumer without having some licensing and regulation in place for that. And as far as the product becoming less quality, the exact opposite would happen. When you allow an entrepreneurial spirit and a free market to start to happen, people become proud of what they do, and they move forward to the infrastructure of building better grow facilities. So now when you have a grower who is afraid of the police coming and tearing down their crops, they don't build into their crops irrigation systems. They don't have employees that are checking the crops, you know, on a daily basis. So when it becomes a legal system and you can invest in that infrastructure, you will grow a much better product and be more known for having the brand of ganja here in Jamaica.
There's a very aggressive ad campaign that is very visible to everyone who watches cable television, US-based cable television. That is an anti-marijuana campaign that says that marijuana causes you to get to a different state of mind, that causes you to be incapable of being rational. Basically it says, do not do it. This will cause extreme damage. What do you say to a campaign like that?
I'd like to quote our president, Barack Obama, who came out 2 days ago, and he says clearly marijuana is less harmful than alcohol. And throughout the ages, when we look at this, marijuana is clearly one of the substances on this. It's a plant to start off with, and we have any real studies that show any kind of damage to people moving forward with this. Like I said, we're giving it to babies right now. And once again, let me remind people, we are not talking about a new product. People have been smoking cannabis now for hundreds of years. We know from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the amount of people who have smoked and the amount of people who have issues with it is very, 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 very small. As far as being in a different state of mind, your Rastafari community will talk about the spiritual guidance that they get from inducing with cannabis. We talk about the relaxation ideas that people use to be able to calm yourself from a very stressful world, which is much better than having a martini or, you know, a Jack Daniels per se.
Obviously not everyone will agree with you.
Of course not.
But if it is as brilliant as you say, why only 2 states have legalized it?
Well, in Colorado, when we started this movement in 2009, Colorado was the only state, well, I'm sorry, Colorado and California were the only 2 states that had moved forward with medicinal legislation. In less than 4 years, we've seen 20 states and the District of Columbia move in that direction.
But only 2 have legalized it.
Well, only 2 have legalized it this year, or last year.
Well,
so
why?
What we'll see.
You have what, 52 states?
We have 50 states.
Right, 50 states.
But yeah, we're going to see 3 more states probably by the end of the year legalizing. By 2016, we're on track to see more than 11 states start to legalize. It's because our federal government has had what we consider the most racist laws in history in place. We have to know, too, that cannabis has been the reason why so many people have been incarcerated throughout the globe, but definitely in the United States. 860,000 people are arrested each year for cannabis possession. Of that 860,000, over 740,000 of them are black and brown people between the ages of 17 and 24. So when we see these racist laws in place, we have to ask ourselves, why are these laws and why is this harmless plant being used to target underprivileged people is what's happening.
Some of the naysayers say, well, all right, it's all right with weed, but you start weed and you're going to go to coke and you're going to go to heroin. Does that follow?
That's just silly. I would say we've started with alcohol and we haven't gone to, you know, cocaine and heroin. Once again, if we're going to talk about addictive substances in society, then that would mean anybody that is against the legalization of cannabis should be completely against tobacco and alcohol for their addictive natures. We know that those are addictive. We know that those are harmful. And yes, we still revel in the idea of a fine bottle of wine.
You're good, Wanda. Wanda, you're good.
So you don't see a downside to this at all?
I see no downside to this at all, none whatsoever.
What, finally, have you told the Jamaicans? What have you said to the ministers? How do we go about this? Where do we start?
We have met with numerous your ministers. We've met with both youth groups on both sides of your parties. We've met with the Rastafaris, the stakeholders, the growers. What we tell people is we want to see, or we want to help Jamaica move to a legal and regulated market. We want to make sure that we help and assist the growers in growing the best cannabis, free from mold, pesticides, bugs, and different things. We want to be able to offer to the consumers the opportunity to buy safe cannabis, and even more so, we want to be able to offer your tourists who come to Jamaica a safe and legal way to be able to purchase cannabis. Many tourists enjoy coming here, smoking cannabis, but many of them are fearful because they don't know how to get it, and they end up in situations that may not be positive for them. So for a tourist to be able to come to the island and be able to purchase cannabis in a place that is legal and clean and safe,
like a cafe,
would do nothing but increase your tourism dollars and increase the people that want to come here. And I would love to see Jamaica be to bring that brand of Jamaican ganja first before any of the other islands in the Caribbean do it. You deserve that brand, and like I said before, nobody wants to buy spaghetti sauce from China. You want to buy spaghetti sauce that was made in Italy. Exactly. You own this brand, and I would like to see Jamaicans be proud of this brand and see tourists actually understand what it means.
I know that it's not necessarily what you're here to speak to, but let's just step outside of Wanda's box for a second and tell me from an outside perspective what this could mean for the export market, for Jamaica's economy going forward.
It's not just about export. Export, you'd be able to do quite a bit. I will say Colorado ran out of cannabis by day 3. So a lot of our dispensaries actually had to close their doors on the 3rd day of legal sales to reboot and to bring in more cannabis because the demand was so great. So as Jamaica goes forward, there will be a time when you will be able to grow plenty of cannabis to be able to export to different countries for medicinal uses and different things. But right now, what would be wonderful to see for Jamaica is to be able to do medicinal trials here on the island, to be able to bring medicinal tourism, those children that we talked about, to be able to take care of your Rastafari community and their spiritual piece, to be able to take care of the smokers here, on the cannabis connoisseurs here in Jamaica, and more importantly, we want to see you bring tourism to the island because we want you to come and buy cannabis, but we also want you to spend $3,000 at the resorts and go buy some Bob Marley t-shirts and take a ride into Frenchman's Cove, and to really start to spend some money here in Jamaica that improves your government, as well as bringing in revenues so that you are no longer dependent on the IMF. That would be one of the greatest things that we'd love to see happen here in Jamaica for its people.
Great to meet you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
So the day will come, folks, that you go to a little shop and you says, well, I'll have a pound of flour, half a pound of sugar, and an ounce of weed to go.
You can specify your flavor of your weed.
Right.
Exactly.
Sensibila. Member of the Cannabis Global Initiative.